So we've looked at live elements already, including vocals, how to record them, how to comp them and edit them, and also how to mix them. And now we're going to move on to synthesizers. And for this, we're going to look at the internal synthesizer in Cubase itself, and also including some external hardware. So first up we have Groove Agent SE. This is being used to trigger some electronic based kick and snare sounds. Groove Agent SE, sort of MPC style pads here. It's great for electronic sources, load of presets in there, but also it's got some really nice acoustic kits in there with kind of multi-mic variations. You can drag and drop audio files into the pads, so you can actually create your own sets very, very easily. And what I'm doing here is I've got the MIDI hits, which have been generated. If I go to the drum kit from the kick and the snare tracks, if I click on those to edit, you'll see in the hit points tab, what I can do is I can do the create slices we did before, but you can also do create MIDI notes. So it creates MIDI notes from those individual drum hits. And I can do that for the kicks, the snares, and so on. It might need a bit of tidying up, but then I can actually import it into another track, or combine two tracks together, like I've done here for this electronics kick and snare track. And I've got kicks and snares which are derived from the programming, or the way they were played originally on the real kit. Retrolog, fantastic synth this, analog vibe, based around oscillators, filters, amp envelopes and so on, lots of modulation possibilities. It's very easy to get your head around. I mean, most of the stuff is on a single screen, so it works really nicely from that point of view, and modulation is very straightforward. So we've got the mod wheel mapped to cutoff here. As you can see, as I push the mod wheel up and down, it changes the filter cutoff, and that's a really nice way of actually just on very simple parts making the sounds sort of live and breathe a little bit more, make it more interesting. You can see I can program modulation in through the MIDI part there, but also if I enable automation read mode and go into the more in the drop down here, I'll be able to, what I can actually do is actually set it to respond to MIDI CC information, modulation information here. So what I've got is I've got this track set up for MIDI CC, continuous controller for modulation. I'm going to just draw this in, and what's quite nice about this is it's separate to the MIDI part, so I can actually see it sitting underneath the MIDI part, as I would do with any other automation. And drawing it in is much. You can draw it in with these lines, and you create the different points. So very quick and easy from that perspective. If we dive now to Pad Shop, another great sounding synth. This is doing very simple, unquantized, you can see, part here. And I've got a bit of pitch bend in at the end there. And also, if I just open this up, you'll notice I've got some modulation going on as well within the MIDI part. So that's not being created using automation, that's all self-contained. Now, Pad Shop is based around granular synthesis. This little window here, it contains a sample, and if you get the Pro version, which doesn't cost about £7 more, you can actually import your own samples as well. Pad Shop is complex, but it allows you to create sounds in some very interesting and relatively unpredictable ways. You can create some great stuff. Halion Sonic SE, this is really good for your real, in inverted commas, sound sources, your pianos and things like that, as well as many synth sounds, but this is where to go for if you want to have those really full sounding real instruments in particular. And it's very much like a sort of classic hardware module with a whole bunch of sounds in there. Here we've got the piano, and I'm using the FX3, the Reverb 3, which is the Revelation reverb, the big Revelation reverb we created earlier on. And that sounds really nice with that piano going into it. Outside of Cubase, we've got external synthesizers which we can control and play via MIDI. Also, we can record them in real time using audio tracks, and that's great because we can also edit them and tweak them later on in some interesting ways. Here we've also got some live recorded parts. So these are recorded straight to audio from a keyboard, from a sample-based keyboard, the CP, the Yamaha CP, and it really relying here on just kind of capturing a live performance. And not really involving any quantization or anything like that, and capturing it for vibe. I think that's particularly important when you mix it with the program parts we've got there already. And these are actually being controlled. You notice we've got this VCA channel here, which is assigned to each of to all of these. It allows you to control the level in one go as an alternative to groups and things like that. It's great for controlling lots of different channels and make your mixing much more streamlined, I guess. This part here is a reverse bit of audio, and what I've done is I actually created this from the piano part from Halion Sonic and use render in place. And what this does is it bounces out an audio version of the piano, and then we've got the audio version. We can then sort of manipulate it in some very interesting ways. So even though it's a relatively straightforward sound, a piano sound, we can actually do some pretty interesting stuff with it. So render it in place. We do the render settings here. And what this enables me to do is bounce the audio out. And I'm going to say, keep the source events unchanged. I'm keeping the original track there. Let's render this out. It'll create the audio. And then I can go in and actually chop and change and do these interesting things with it. Which I wouldn't be able to do on MIDI parts. So for example, I can reverse the audio. Let's select that audio here. Go into Audio, Process and Reverse, and you'll see it's reversed the piano. So these very nice sweeping sounds, which can then be chopped and used selectively. And you can see here I've got those in place already, the rendered and reversed piano part there. This here is another live part from the CS, the Yamaha CS synth. Lots of twiddling and sort of mucking about with the different sounds and also the effects as well, and just doing that live. Little blips and whatever, and just kind of seeing how that might fit in. This is just creating this kind of sonic bed underneath. Here we have Retrolog again, and I'm using it to create this sort of blippy kind of ARP sound. And then what you can see here is if we can try to use the automation, if I enable write automation, as I've done here, it allows me to move all the parameters and record all the changes. So you can really go to town with a whole load of different automation. I think the general thing with automation, is keep it simple. Sometimes mod wheel, using the modulation matrix in these synths, does allow you to keep tabs on what's going on and control a bunch of parameters just with one control, say the mod wheel or whatever, and it does make it a little bit more straightforward. If we dive back into the Retrolog here, you'll notice that we've got MIDI inserts. So the arpeggio is being controlled or be created from basically it's a held cluster of sounds, and it's going through this MIDI insert on the channel, and that is the Arpesh arpeggiator, which then runs into this other MIDI insert, which adds a little bit of swing to the playback of the sound. So these MIDI inserts are a really useful way of processing the notes. What goes onto the track goes through the MIDI insert and then out to the synth plugin. We have these controls here as well, these quick access controls, which allow you to, which can be remapped yourself if you want, but they allow you to set up a bunch of controls that will map directly to parameters within the synth that you're using. The preset systems in the synths are, particularly the built-in synths that come with Cubase, have a bunch of presets which have been ready tagged, so that you can actually search by name, but also various characteristics of the sounds as well. So we've looked at adding synthesizers into our project, both internal via plugins and also external synthesizers. Now we're going to move on to housekeeping and general workflow.